For my money, in the motion graphics world, I reckon particle systems give you some of the best bang for your buck. Now by bang, I mean overall impression or impressiveness, and by buck, I mean effort. They give us this rich sense of dynamic motion which I at least seem to get lost in, like a baby staring at a colourful shiny object. So in this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to create this dynamic 3D visualizer thing. And don't worry, for you non-audio people, we'll make it interactive too. Let's get cracking. So the first thing I'm going to do is kind of set up our audio bit. And I will mention at this point, you don't need to do the audio bit. Like this is kind of like an extra add-on in a way. It continues on from some tutorials that we put up before. So go and watch those if you want to do the audio bit. But everything that I show you in this can be done without any audio. You can have it interactive and have it triggered various other ways. So yeah, skip forward a little bit if you're not interested in the audio section. But for those that are here, then we're going to load this up. This is our project we were working on before. And what I've done is I've just set up a kind of drum section here. There we go. It's kind of like a sort of dubstep-y kind of thing. And then that is sending MIDI notes out on this channel here. And actually we're going to rename this because we're going to use this reference here as our thing. So yeah, now we're setting out note drums, and then that's the note number, and that's the velocity. And that should be coming through to Unreal Engine. So what I'll do is I'll keep this playing, and what I'll do is mute it so we don't have to listen to it the whole time. And then we can jump straight over to Unreal Engine. This is, again, the project that we were working on previously. You don't need to use this project. You can use a totally blank one. But if you want to do, again, the audio element with the OSC and the audio reactive stuff, then this is where you want to be starting. So we're going to start a new bit in this. So we're going to make a new folder. I'm going to call this particle dance. Actually, I've already got a folder there. I guess I've already created it. So yeah, blank folder, particle dance, and then we're going to make a new level within that. And we're going to use a blank one. We're not going to use this one. Particle dance level. Let's go into that. It's going to come up with this. Yep, save it. It's a blank level. So we're just going to put a couple of bits in here just to kind of see what we're doing. Let's chuck a cube in, zero it out so we know that's like the middle of our scene. And actually, this is going to be our backdrop as well. So we're going to drag this out. There we go. And then, yeah, it's like, in case you don't know, hold Control and space and you'll get this this draw up, and then we're going to right click in here and actually, yeah, and make a material. So we need to make a background material. BG matte. Go in here, and then we want it to be a grey color. Like it could be other things. I'll tell you what I'll do is I'll drag this out, promote to parameter anyway, base color, and actually we'll leave that as, actually we'll make it like slightly grey, and we can change it later. This just allows us to make like dynamic materials and stuff, which we actually don't need for this, but it's fine. And then hold down the number 1 key and click, and you'll get this like singular variable. Bring that to the roughness. We're going to put this at 0.9. Save that. Actually, let's just make this slightly darker. There you go. Yeah, that's about right. I can minimize that. Control space again, drag that on. Not going to see it because there's no lights in the scene and we need to add lights. So we're going to go sky, type in sky and bring in our skylight. Zero that out as well. And then we're going to, instead of source type, let's capture scene, we're going to go specified cube map, and then we're going to, you won't be able to see them down here, but yeah, you can scroll down. Is there a way of making this like visible up here? I'm not sure. Yeah, that's annoying. You can't see it, but basically when you click on that, you have options for them, and we're going to grab this Epic Quad Panorama one. So you could just type that in as well. And as you can see, it's already lighting up the scene. And it's doing that because we have, by default, it has this kind of like auto exposure thing turned on, which actually isn't what we want. So we need to go into another object to change that, which is our post-processing volume. Drag that out. And then here we can change the exposure mode. Instead of metering, we want it to be manual. And that's not going to affect anything because it's just affecting what's in that box, and our camera also isn't in that box. So we need to go down, or actually just type in and go, type in inf, and it'll come up with this, which is our infinite extent unbound. Boom. That's just affecting the whole scene now. So even though we've got this little box here, it's affecting the whole scene. And we do need to go back and change that exposure in the skylight actually, yeah. So we'll go here and then we'll go intensity scale and up that until we get like a sort of, just start to light it up a little bit. And there we go. We need a camera. So we're going to go Cine camera actor, zero this one out as well and drag this back a bit. So we're seeing the backdrop and you can kind of see through that. We can pin that actually so we can see what we're seeing. See through the camera. But we're not going to be able to look through that camera until we set up a couple of other bits. I'll show you what happens when we do that. If we press play, we'll just spawn wherever the thing was as this character. We don't want that. So we have to set up a custom game mode for that. So blueprint class. I know this is like going off the screen. It's a bit annoying, but yeah, blueprint class. And then we want game mode base. Particle dance game mode. That's fine. We actually don't need to do anything in that. All we need to do is go to our world settings and then go particle dance game mode and then save. And then if we try it again, now it's going to be again where our current camera is, not the Cine camera, but we can look around, which again isn't quite what we want. There's one more thing we have to do. If we go open level blueprint here, if we drag in our Cine camera actor and go set view target, this isn't the one. Uncheck that. We want set view target with blend. And then we need this to be a player controller as well. So we type in player control. It's not this one. It won't work. We need to check this again, annoyingly. And then it's this one. It's the one that's under like game. That applies to like quite a lot of things actually. So whenever you're trying to get a player controller, you always want that one generally. Save that, compile. There we go. Now we're looking through our Cine camera, which is what we want. That's good. Okay, now we can start making the fun bit, the particle system. So we're going to right click. We're going to go again, blueprint class. And we already made one in the previous tutorials. I called it parent. Module, should have called it something else really. If you're doing this without the music element, you don't need this. Like you can just do like a blank module, a blank actor, sorry. But I'm going to use this one because it has some of the functionality that we've already built in order to bring the OSC messages into Unreal. So we'll do that and we call this particle dancer. And we will add, let's just add a sphere just so we can see something basically. We'll bring that in and we'll put this at 0. Let's go back to details and then we'll actually move this backdrop back a bit. There we go. Yeah, that's a bit nicer. And then we need one more thing from our previous tutorial actually, which is in here. It's our OSC receiver. This is the object. This is the thing that's actually going to pull the messages in that are coming from Ableton and then bring them in order for other objects in this level to be able to see them. So it's basically, this is what's receiving it and then it's sending it to this one here. So let's go in and then just double check that that's working. So we're going to our event graph and then over here, we basically can override one of the functions that we create in there, which was OSC message filtered. So we've got that, and then we're going to right click on here, convert a function to event, and now we have it in our main graph, which is what we want. And we'll just test it's working. Print string, and then we'll pull it out this message to see what we're getting for our thing. So yeah, let's press play and see if we get anything. No. One more thing we need to change, reference. We're sending it through as drums, so this is why we need this thing. It's good because it stops it from sending to all the different locations, but we've got to remember to change it. Hit drums there, so it's sending through, it's being filtered out, it's looking for anything that has the word drums in it. Compile, save, press play, and now we're getting our drums through. Brilliant, this is exactly what we want. So that's all set up, we know that's working, and now we can start building our particle system. So in order to do that, we need to go back to our particle dance folder. Little pause for some iced refreshments. Actually, these are unsaved. I'm going to hold Control Shift and press S, and it will save everything. It's currently unsaved. And then we're going to right click, type in Niagara system. And then we have an option of what to create. We're going to create an empty system here. Particle dance system. go into that. And then we've got a completely empty system, which is what we want actually. But we're going to right click, add emitter. And then the one I like to use, there's all these presets. You can start from scratch, but I generally like to start from one that already exists, even if it isn't what we want really, just because it has a lot of the stuff built in. I'm going to pick Fountain. Fountain has some of the stuff that we want. Like it's nowhere near like what you've seen, obviously, but we'll get there very, very quickly. There's a few things we don't need straight away, so we'll get rid of those. We don't need gravity. We don't need the sprite renderer, and we don't want to add velocity either, so we'll just get rid of that as well. And now there's nothing, but what we are going to do is add on a mesh renderer, because we're going to use little spheres, which are going to look a lot nicer. And then we're going to swirl down on that, and we're going to find a sphere. Quite big spheres for what we want. We'll change those in a minute. And we're going to go shape location. Instead of spawning in a sphere, we're going to spawn on this like torus kind of thing. Yeah, that's about right. And then initialize particle. I'm just going to change a couple of bits in here. We're going to set the lifetime minimum to 3 and 4, maybe like 2 and 4 actually. So it's like they'll appear and disappear a bit more randomly. Like particles are all about randomness. You'll see me doing a lot of this in this tutorial. Yeah, there's the more kind of like variation you can give them, the better really. Like they'll just sort of look more natural, look more interesting. We don't need the sprite size. We actually want the mesh scale mode to be random uniform. And they want to be between, let's say, we're going to change this actually, but let's say 0.01 and 0.1. So that gives us like a rough distribution, which looks quite good actually. Before we do too much more, let's grab it into our particle dance thing and see what happens. So back in our particle dancer system, we go add, we can say Niagara particle system. That's fine. And actually it already pulled it, because I guess we were like selected here, like it already pulled the one. If this isn't selected, all you need to do is like scroll down and like type in the one that we got, or just drag it straight in here. But that should be in there now. So let's look in the viewport. Yep. That's spawning there. If we minimize this, we'll see it here as well. We need it to face the camera, so we can do that now. If we go back to our system and then go shape location torus, and then transform rotation mode axis angle. That might have actually already done it. Let's see. Yeah, okay, sweet. That was what we needed. It just needed to be 1, 0, 0. It's just moving it on the x-axis basically, which is fine. Cool. Next steps, we need to get this moving a little bit, don't we? Well, actually, before we do that, they're popping on and off, which I don't like at all. So we're going to go make particle update, and we're going to go scale, scale mesh size, and then we're going to go vector from float, which just means we're controlling all 3 values with 1 rather than having to do it individually. And then from that, we're going to go type in curve, float from curve. And then, yeah, this is following it over time, basically. So this is like the age of the particle. And so it's going to like get smaller over time, which isn't quite what we want. Let's add a couple of keyframes here, because actually we want to scale them on and off. So we'll go 0 on that one. That one's fine, and then we'll put this up to 1, and then this up to 1 as well. And you know what? I'm going to make them all kind of like, yeah, like a bit smoother as well, and probably drag this over a little bit as well. So now they'll sort of appear on and like fade off, and you'll get this like smoother effect. And especially when they're in the motion, like you won't even really see this, whereas the popping you would have kind of noticed a little bit. So we'll do that. Right, another thing we're going to change, properties. We're going to change this to a GPU compute sim. This just basically means like a CPU sim is useful when you want to do like really complex particle system stuff that's kind of like super dynamic and stuff. But we're not really doing that. We're just sort of moving things around, making them look pretty. So we can get away with our GPU sim, which is great because it means we can get a lot more particles going. So GPU will come up with this error. We can actually just ignore this for now. It's not going to affect what we need to do here. So there we go. And now we can up our spawn rate. We're currently 90. Let's just chuck it way up to like 9,000. Yeah, that's cool. Nice and nice and chunky. And now we can get things moving, finally. So particle update, and we're going to go vortex force. And currently it's doing it the wrong way. We want to go probably the same as like the torus. So 1 on there. There you go. Yeah, and that's actually pretty cool. And we're going to maybe like put in a bit of a pull, so they get pulled into the center a little bit more. Yeah, that's kind of cool. Yeah, pretty wild. This is where we're going to add some randomness. So again, like random range float. So let's say between 100 and like 350, maybe. No, maybe 250. Yeah, there we go. So it just means like they're all getting affected slightly differently from the vortex. You're not getting like all this uniformity, which isn't quite what we want. I'm actually the spawn rate is probably slightly high for what we need. It's a bit confusing. So let's put this down to like 4,000. And then another one we're going to use, I'll just make this slightly bigger so you can see what's going on, is we want curl noise force. And this is going to like add some like variation to our thing. So we can see what's going on actually. The frequency is always relatively high, but let's just put this up and I'll show you what we're seeing. We'll put it to 500. You see they're all like moving randomly now. If we put this frequency down to like 1, you'll see it's kind of like, it's too low basically. The waves are too low. Let's put it to 10 and see what happens. That's too high as well. 2, yeah, 2 is probably about right. And what we can also do is like pan it a bit. So basically it's going to like change over time, and that's looking quite cool. It's just that the strength is just way too high. So we'll put this down to like 100, and then yeah, we start to get this like undulating effect, which is quite cool. They're kind of flying out a bit too much. I don't really like that. So we can fix that in a number of ways. Actually, before we get there, I'm just going to change this as well to be random range float, because again, we want some randomness in there. Let's change it to like, I don't know, 20, and well, 100 was good, so maybe 150, just so some of them are going to move a lot more, and then you get, yeah, much more kind of affected. Actually, you know what? We do want them all to be affected a bit more, so there we go. Let's do that. So we had even our vortex force, we had this pull amount, which is fine. Like, it doesn't give you like loads of control. So what we can do is we can get an attractor, point attraction force. There we go. And then this will be in the middle of our scene anyway, which is fine. This traction radius we can put up to like 1,000, and then let's see what happens when you put this up to 100. Right, they're all going to jump in there, which isn't quite what we want. We need to balance this out a bit. So we're going to go, let's say 20. That's probably too much. 10. Like anything particles, like, or any kind of simulation-y stuff, like you just need to play around with the thing. And you know what else we can do actually to slow this down a little bit? Our drag bit here, I might put that up to 0.5, maybe even 1. Yeah, actually that is quite good. And let's just turn down our point force. You know what, we probably don't even need the point force. If we've got the drag, they're just not going to fly out as much. So that's pretty cool. Yeah, let's go with that. I have got it on at 1. Let's just leave it there. Little break. Alrighty then. Let's set ourselves up for some interactivity, because that's the bit that we're here for. And then we'll get back to like shading and making it look pretty. So this is here by default. You have parameters, user parameters, and then local modules. We want to be in user parameters, and we're going to add a couple of things that are going to like change this over time. So we do that. We type in float, and then we're going to call this one pulse. Actually, no. You know what? Let's rename it something a bit more. We're going to call it push out, all one word, capitals, and another float, and then let's call this one noise. And we're going to replace some of these variables here. So in our vortex force, curl noise force, we're going to change our maximum to this. So actually, let's put it as 150 by default, so it doesn't change anything. But it means that we can change this dynamically now, like from elsewhere, which is good. And then we're also going to add another point force, and then this one's going to like push things out. Actually, is that point force? I've always used attractor, but maybe point force does the same thing. Let's do point attraction force anyway, because that's the one I've used before, but maybe the point does the same thing. Anyway, it doesn't matter. 1,000, and then we're going minus 100. So it's going to like push them out, which is what we want. But we actually don't want that by default. We want it to be 0 by default. So we'll drag our push out to that. So it's 0 by default. It's not doing anything. And then every now and then we'll like pulse it, and we'll use the rhythm or some other interactive thing to do that for us. So right, let's go back to our particle dancer. We can get rid of the sphere. Don't need that. And then we can go to our event graph, and we can go in here and we can pull in our particle dance system, and we can go set a variable, and we want to set Niagara variable float. We actually want 2 of these. And we need to name them the same things as these. So we can, we've got push out and we got noise. So we go push out and noise. And this needs to be hooked up to there as well. And now what we're going to do is every time we get a message, we're going to change those values basically. So we need a timeline. And we're going to hit the update to that. We're actually going to hit this play from start, and then we're going to double click on this, change this to 0.5, and then make a new track. And here we go. Let's go like that. And then let's add some keys. What is it? I can't remember how you add a key now. Oh yeah, it's shift and click, and then you get a key. And we want our first one, because these are going to like pulse basically. So we want that to be a 0, we want that to be a 1, and it's basically going to pulse on and off. So, oops, that's not what we wanted at all. 1, 0. This one wants to be 1 as well. Let's just make it bigger. There we go. And we'll drag this one over here. And then, yeah, it'll kind of like ease off. So it'll be like boo, boo, boo. Which is going to look cool. Yeah, so we've got that back here, and then this is now going to control these values, and we're going to sort of lerp between some different values for that. So drag out from one of those and go lerp, and we'll go into our alpha here, and this push out value, if you remember, it's set to 0, so it should be 0 by default, and then when we activate this, it wants to go to like whatever it was, minus 100. And then we'll do this one as well. Another lerp, same alpha. And then this was our noise force. To just remind ourselves, it's set to 150 by default, and we want to bump it up basically when we get a pulse. We go back to this, so it's going to go from 150, and it's not going to affect all of them, but it's going to sort of range them over time or over the amount that there are. And let's set this up to something like 500 or something. And now we should see something pretty mad, because it's going to be hitting like all of these are coming through, which isn't what we want. We want only some of the hits to do it, because at the moment we're getting every single symbol here, everything. So we need to go into here, and then our pitch, basically, we're going to go equals, and then make a branch. Put this here. And basically this is to say whatever pitch that we get, it's going to be that thing. So let's go to Ableton. Let's just hit stop for a minute, and let's say we want our like kick drum. So we can hit that, and then when we go back to this, it'll show whatever the last one. It's 36. So 36 is the number we want to equal. So 36. Let's just hit play again. And now if we hit play, it should just be doing it on the kick drum. Yeah, and if I turn the audio on, yeah, looking kind of cool. And in fact, like at this point, we might be able to make it harder. Like it's not pushing that much. So let's go minus 500, and then let's turn this up to like 5,000. And we'll get a much more stronger effect. Too strong. So that might be 1,000, and then minus 200. And actually our timeline is probably a bit too long there. It's like, maybe it's back here is what it is. You got to just mess around with these things. These are all like fun things you can mess around with for your own purposes. Yeah, that's cool. And when it gets like the double drum, it's hitting it twice, which looks kind of cool. There you go. Then you get some other music on the go. And then I promised we would do it without the music as well. So it's very simple. We just need to go back here. We're going to go add custom event, pulse. We're going to make this, call it an editor, and then we'll just hook that up to that as well. And then when we play this one, you'll see it on here actually. So we've got this button we can hit to pulse it. And actually it'll do it in the editor, although because it's a timeline, it won't work properly. So let me just go back to this. Yeah, there we go. In fact, if I play this in the editor, we'll be able to see it. Here we go. And then, yeah, hit pulse just to reset it. We can do it manually, which is great. Boom. We can do it at the same time as the music, actually. So we can have like, control it 2 different ways, which is kind of fun. There we go. Not really sure why this is going mad now. Okay, so yeah, weird bug when you press it. I guess because you're like not triggering the timeline. So the way that we can get around this basically is to just make a little reset button for ourselves. So let's just do that here, and let's go call this like reset. Sorry, reset. We want this reset, and then we want this to be callable in editor, and we're basically just going to copy these. Put these here. I'll push out wants to be 0, and this was 150 by default. And then just make sure you've hooked up your Niagara thing there, and then we should be able to just let it reset. There we go. Okay. That's really annoying. I really fixed it. Like, we edited that bit out, but like, actually took me a little while to solve. So yeah, sorry about that. But yeah, like now we have our thing. The pulse will just work normally when it's running. We won't need the reset, although you can just use it if you want to. It's always helpful to have a reset. But yeah, there you go. We'll kind of leave it there, like as a sort of end of part 1. Just because that's like the main kind of functionality. And then in the next one, I'll do a little bit more kind of like finessing. We'll do some shading work as well. Yeah, we'll go from there. So see you in the next one.